Millionaire man left his phone in a taxi. The broke driver who returned it got a call that changed everything. Rain hammered against the windshield of Jake Morrison's battered 2010 Toyota Camry as he navigated through the busy streets of downtown Chicago. At 34, Jake had the weathered hands of someone who'd worked every day of his adult life. Yet his bank account told a different story. 3 months behind on rent, his landlord's threats echoing in his mind. Jake gripped the steering wheel tighter as another fare request pinged on his phone. "Magnificent mile, please," came the crisp voice from the backseat as a well-dressed man in his 50s slid into the cab. His tailored navy suit probably cost more than Jake made in 2 months, and the subtle gleam of his gold watch caught the streetlight. "You got it, sir," Jake replied, studying his passenger in the rearview mirror. The man's steel gray hair was perfectly styled, and he carried himself with the quiet confidence that only came with real success. Throughout the 15-minute ride, the passenger was glued to his phone, speaking in rapid-fire business jargon about quarterly projections and merger acquisitions. "Take the next right here," the man instructed, barely looking up from his device. The building with the glass facade. Jake pulled up to the gleaming office tower, its 40-story height disappearing into the low-hanging clouds. "That'll be $18.50, sir." The businessman handed him a 20, already stepping out. "Keep the change." He was halfway to the revolving doors when Jake noticed it, a sleek black iPhone lying on the back seat. Still warm from use, Jake's heart began to race. He grabbed the phone, its expensive case confirming what he already suspected. This wasn't just any phone, this was the latest model, probably worth more than Jake's car. The screen lit up with notification after notification. Stock alerts, meeting reminders, text messages that began with $signs. For a moment that stretched like eternity, Jake sat in his idling cab, staring at the device. His mind raced through the possibilities. He could sell it easily, get $400, maybe $500. That would cover his rent, buy groceries, keep the lights on for another month. Who would know? The guy was clearly loaded. He'd just buy another one without blinking. Jake's thumb hovered over the power button. 3 more notification pings echoed in the silent car. His daughter Emma's face flashed in his mind, the 8-year-old who lived with her mother across town, who Jake could barely afford to take to McDonald's on his weekend visits. Then he thought about his own father, a construction worker who'd raised him with one simple rule: "Son, your word and your character are the only things in this world that truly belong to you." "Damn," Jake muttered, turning off the engine. He grabbed his own phone and called his dispatcher. "Hey Marie, it's Jake. I need you to hold my calls for 20 minutes. Got a passenger emergency." Jake jogged through the rain toward the office building, the expensive phone clutched in his jacket pocket. The lobby was all marble and glass, with a security desk that looked like it belonged in a fortress. The guard, a heavy-set man in his 60s, looked up skeptically as Jake approached, his worn jacket dripping rainwater onto the pristine floor. "Can I help you?" The guard's tone suggested he thought Jake definitely didn't belong there. "Yeah, I'm a taxi driver. I just dropped off a passenger, and he left his phone in my cab." Tall guy, gray hair, navy suit. "Went up about 5 minutes ago." The guard's expression shifted from suspicion to mild interest. "What's the name?" Jake pulled out the phone. The lock screen displayed a photo of the businessman with a woman and 2 teenagers, all of them smiling on what looked like a yacht. But no name was visible. I don't know his name. But he was talking about some big merger, quarterly reports. Really important business stuff. "Sir, I can't just—" "Look," Jake interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of his decision. "This phone's been buzzing nonstop. Whatever this guy does, it's important. I'm not asking for a reward or anything. I just want to do the right thing." The guard studied Jake's face for a long moment, then picked up his desk phone. "Mr. Davidson?" "Yes, sir." There's a gentleman here. A taxi driver ... says you left your phone in his cab. A pause. Yes, sir. Bringing him up now. The elevator ride to the 32nd floor felt like ascending to another world. When the doors opened, Jake found himself in a reception area that screamed money leather chairs that probably cost more than his monthly salary, abstract art that made no sense but somehow looked expensive, and a view of Lake Michigan that took his breath away. Mr. Davidson will see you now, the receptionist said, leading Jake down a hallway lined with glass-walled conference rooms where people in suits gestured at charts and graphs. Richard Davidson's corner office was larger than Jake's entire apartment. The man stood behind a desk that could have doubled as a small aircraft carrier, his expression unreadable as Jake approached. "You're the taxi driver," Davidson said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir." Jake Morrison. Jake pulled the phone from his pocket and placed it on the massive desk. "You left this in my cab." Davidson picked up his phone, checking it as if to confirm it was real. "You could have kept this, sold it. I would never have known it was you." Jake shifted uncomfortably. "That's not who I am, sir." "Apparently not." Davidson walked around his desk, studying Jake with the intensity of someone accustomed to reading people quickly and accurately. "You know what this phone contains? 3 deals worth over $50 million. Conference calls scheduled for this afternoon that could make or break my company's entire fourth quarter." Jake swallowed hard. "I figured it was important." "Important?" Davidson laughed, but it wasn't mocking. "Son, you just saved my business, maybe my entire career." He returned to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a checkbook. "What's your name again?" "Jake Morrison, sir. But I don't want any money. I was just doing what's right." Davidson paused, his pen hovering over the check. "When's the last time someone did something like this for you? No strings attached, no expectation of reward?" Jake thought about it. Really thought about it. I can't remember, sir." "Neither. Can one?" Davidson set down his pen and walked to the window, gazing out at the city below. "You know what I see when I look out there, Jake? Millions of people, all trying to get ahead, most of them willing to step on anyone who gets in their way. And then a taxi driver, a man who clearly needs money, finds a phone worth more than most people make in a week, and his first instinct is to return it." The two men stood in silence for a moment, the weight of the gesture settling between them. "I want to ask you something, Jake, and I need you to be completely honest with me. What do you want most in this world?" Jake's throat tightened. "I want to be able to take care of my daughter. I want her to be proud of her dad. I want to know that when I tuck her in at night, I can look her in the eye and know I'm the kind of man she can respect." Davidson turned back to face him. "You already are that man, Jake. The question is, what would you do if someone gave you the chance to prove it to the world?" Before Jake could respond, Davidson's landline rang. He glanced at the caller ID and his expression grew serious. "I need to take this," Davidson said. "Jake, I want you to go home. Spend time with your daughter this weekend. But I want you to keep your phone on, because I'm going to call you on Monday morning. And when I do, I'm going to offer you something that will change your life, if you're brave enough to take it." As Jake rode the elevator back down to the lobby, his mind raced. What could a millionaire possibly offer a broken-down taxi driver? But as he stepped back into the rain, one thing was clear. His life had just taken a turn he never could have imagined. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, typical for November in Chicago. Jake sat in his kitchen, nursing his third cup of coffee and staring at his phone like it might explode. It was 9:47 a.m., and he'd been awake since 5:30, his mind replaying every moment of Friday's encounter with Richard Davidson. The phone rang. "Jake Morrison speaking." "Jake, it's Richard Davidson. I hope I'm not calling too early." "No, sir. I've been up for hours." "Good. I've been thinking about our conversation all weekend. I want to meet with you today. Can you come to my office? At 2 p.m.? Jake's hands trembled slightly. Yes, sir, absolutely. Excellent. And Jake, bring your resume, whatever you have. After hanging up, Jake stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Resume? The closest thing he had to a resume was a list of jobs he'd held and lost over the past 15 years. Factory worker, construction, retail, taxi driving, nothing that would impress a millionaire businessman. But he spent the morning typing up his work history on his ancient laptop, printing it at the local library, and trying to make his blue-collar background sound as professional as possible. At exactly 2 p.m., Jake found himself back in Davidson's office, this time wearing his only good shirt and a tie he'd borrowed from his neighbor. Sit down, Jake. Davidson gestured to the chair across from his desk. I've made some calls about you. Jake's heart sank. Sir, if this is about… Relax, Davidson smiled. I called your dispatcher, asked about your work record. Marie had nothing but good things to say. Always on time, never complains. Customers love you. She said you've been driving for them for 3 years without a single incident. Yes, sir. I also called a few of your regular customers, Mrs. Patterson on the north side. She says you helped her carry groceries to her apartment every week for 2 years. Never asked for extra money. Bob Martinez from the airport runs says you found his wallet in your cab last month and drove 20 miles out of your way to return. Jake shifted uncomfortably. That's just being decent, sir. Exactly. Davidson leaned forward. Jake, I've been in business for 25 years. I've made more money than most people can imagine, and I've learned that success isn't just about intelligence or luck. It's about character. And character is something you can't teach, can't buy, and can't fake. Davidson stood and walked to a whiteboard on the far wall, where he began sketching a simple organizational chart. I'm launching a new company, Jake, Davidson Community Services. The concept is simple. We're going to provide transportation, delivery, and basic home services to elderly and disabled residents throughout the Chicago area. Not just any transportation, reliable, caring, trustworthy service from people who understand that sometimes a ride to the grocery store is the only human contact some of these folks have all week. Jake watched as Davidson filled in boxes on the chart: operations manager, customer service, driver coordinator. I need someone to run the day-to-day operations. Someone who understands what it's like to struggle, who knows the value of a dollar, and who has the integrity to handle other people's trust. Davidson turned back to Jake. I want you to be my operations manager. Jake's mouth went dry. Sir, I don't have any management experience. I've never run anything bigger than my own route. Jake, you've been managing customer relationships for years. You've been solving problems, handling complaints, dealing with difficult situations. The only difference is scale. Davidson returned to his desk and pulled out a folder. The starting salary is $65,000 a year, plus health, insurance, and a company car. After the first year, if the business is successful, there's a performance bonus and the opportunity to become a part owner. Jake's vision blurred. $65,000? He'd never made more than $28,000 in his best year. But sir, why me? You could hire someone with an MBA, someone with real business experience. Davidson sat back in his chair. Let me tell you a story, Jake. 26 years ago, I was a junior accountant at a small firm. I was ambitious, hungry, maybe a little too eager to get ahead. I was handling the books for a construction company, and I noticed they were skimming money from their workers' pension fund. Not a lot, just enough that it would take years for anyone to notice. Davidson paused, his expression growing distant. The company owner called me into his office and offered me $20,000, more money than I'd ever seen, to keep quiet about what I'd found. $20,000, Jake. For a 26-year-old making $18,000 a year, that was life-changing money. What did you do? I took the money. Davidson's voice was quiet. I told myself I'd earned it, that the workers would never miss it, that everyone was doing it. I bought a car, moved to a better apartment, started dating the woman who would become my wife. Jake sat in stunned silence. 3 months later, the pension fund collapsed. Hundreds of workers lost their retirement savings. Men who'd worked construction for 30 years had nothing to show for it. I watched the news coverage, saw interviews with 60-year-old guys who were broke because I'd chosen money over doing what was right. Davidson opened his desk drawer and pulled out a yellowed newspaper clipping. I kept this as a reminder. There's a photo here of one of the workers, a man named Frank Coleman. He's sitting in his kitchen, explaining to a reporter how he was going to have to work until he died because his pension was gone. Frank looked exactly like my father. The office fell silent except for the distant hum of traffic 32 floors below. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Frank Coleman, about all those workers, about the man I'd become. So I made a decision. I went to the FBI the next morning and told them everything. The construction company owner went to prison, and I had to pay back every penny of that $20,000 plus interest. It took me 4 years. Davidson stood and walked back to the window. But you know what happened next? The FBI agent who handled my case recommended me to a friend who was starting an investment firm. He said anyone honest enough to turn himself in was someone he could trust with his client's money. That recommendation launched my career. He turned back to Jake. I learned something that day, Jake. Character isn't just about doing the right thing when it's easy. It's about doing the right thing when it costs you everything. You had the chance to solve your problems with my phone, and you chose to do what was right. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. Jake felt tears welling up in his eyes. Mr. Davidson, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Jake. Say you'll take a chance on yourself. Say you'll help me build something that matters, a company that proves you can do well by doing good. Jake thought about Emma, about all the times he'd had to tell her they couldn't afford something she wanted, about the looks of pity from other parents at school events. He thought about his own father, who died believing his son would never amount to much. Yes, sir, I'll do it. Davidson smiled, the first genuine smile Jake had seen from him. Outstanding. There's just one more thing. He pulled out a contract and slid it across the desk. Read this carefully. It's not just an employment agreement. If you sign this, you're committing to something bigger than a job. You're committing to being the kind of leader who puts others first, who understands that success means lifting up everyone around you. As Jake read through the contract, Davidson continued, the company officially launches in 6 weeks. That gives us time to hire drivers, set up operations, get our first contracts in place. I've already secured agreements with 3 senior living facilities and the city's Department of Aging. You'll start next Monday. Your first job is to help me interview potential drivers. Jake looked up from the contract. What should I be looking for? The same thing I looked for in you, Jake. Character, integrity. People who understand that sometimes the most important part of the job isn't getting someone from point A to point B, it's making sure they feel valued and respected along the way. Davidson pulled out a pen and set it on the desk. Your signature makes this official, Jake, but I want you to understand something. I'm not giving you charity. I'm making an investment. I believe you can help me build something special, something that proves business can be a force for good in this world. Jake picked up the pen, his hand steady now. As he signed his name, he thought about the moment in his taxi when he decided to return the phone. Such a small choice, made in a moment of silence and rain, had led to this, a chance to rebuild his life, to make his daughter proud, to become the man his father had always hoped he could be. Welcome to Davidson Community Services, Jake. Let's change some lives. As Jake walked out of the office building that afternoon, his phone buzzed with a text message from Emma's mother. Emma has a school play next week. Can you make it? For the first time in months, Jake smiled as he typed back. Wouldn't miss it for the world. The rain had stopped, and somehow Chicago looked different, full of possibility, full of hope. Jake Morrison, the taxi driver who'd returned a phone, was about to discover that sometimes the smallest acts of integrity can open the biggest doors life has to offer.
Thank you for watching this story unfold with us here on M&A The Story Unfolds. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. We'd love to know where you're watching. Leave a comment below and tell us what part of the world you're joining us from. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.